Thank you, Eva, for this very kind introduction. And after the visionary entrepreneur and the visionary politician, you get the bureaucrat. But I would say not a scared bureaucrat. I mean, I think the position of the European Commission and its FinTech task force, which is another one of my hats co-chairing, is one that's a pro-innovation one. It's an enabling one. How can we make Europe a great place to roll out, to implement blockchain? And we have a set of actions, we have a strategy that we're working on with the Parliament, with the stakeholders on. We do face challenges. Part of facing the challenges is a little bit like our blockchain expert was saying, how do you get it to be in the mainstream and not just, how to say, a special area of Bitcoin and so on, which I've also been following for years and have written academically on. And one of the first steps we're taking is the launch of an EU observatory and forum on blockchain together with the European Parliament. And though this sounds perhaps a little bit passive, it's not, because part of the approach and what we think that we have to do is see how we can apply blockchain to specific economic sectors. Because when you really get to the granularity, it does make a difference if you're applying it, let's say, to post-trade, to clearing and settlement, trying to take the role of a depository or another intermediary. It's fine to say, let's make a revolution and cut out the middleman, but you have existing regulation, which may or may not have to change, but part of it is looking at it specifically. If we do want to make use of the blockchain potential, let's say with areas like energy and smart grids, again, you have a completely different institutional structure, a completely different legal structure, which again probably does not in any way say you cannot use blockchain there, but you have to look at it specifically in terms of the use case. And this doesn't mean that you need silos, that you need different blockchains, but you have to see how we can fit it in. And this doesn't mean going slowly. We want to move rapidly with this process, and obviously in areas like finance and others, the private sector and national regulators, along with our own analysis, are already taking place. But it's a process that has to take place and perhaps come to a conclusion. We're also supporting this with research and innovation projects in Horizon 2020, because as we know, along with the governance, which is this issue of applying the blockchain in sectors, you have the issues to do with scaling, you have issues to do with how you can, let's say, be in line with data protection legislation by perhaps keeping the data in decentralized cloud or in the cloud. I mean, there are solutions for a lot of the challenges that we have, but some of them need to be addressed perhaps by research that still needs to be undertaken. Also, which is very important, because we do see perhaps the two big public blockchains, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then very many private proprietary permissioned ones out there, is interoperability. In the future, I mean, some will be more successful, others will fail. It's not up to us to pick the winners, but that those that are out there in the ecosystem, that they are interoperable, so we don't have, again, silos which are bad for efficiency, which are bad for the customer, our own businesses, whether they're in finance, whether they're in health. And actually, we want to make use of the potential of the blockchain to link together the different sectors. They might have different frameworks for specific reasons. If you're going to be reporting adverse events in clinical trials, or if you're going to be reporting a cybersecurity incident, it goes to different places and there's different remedies to take. But perhaps in certain cases, with the pharmaceutical company, with the ICT company, there could be very strong reasons to bring together and to rationalize some of this work. We will have future research projects, again, backing this up, and we are looking at, beyond as well, a policy for the next Commission, including areas like having some of the EU services on blockchain and utilizing tools like innovation procurement. Malcolm Harper's here who knows this tool very well, but also us not only, how to say, lecturing to people, but also using some of our resources to implement some of these measures utilizing the blockchain. And then maybe the last thing that I'll mention is that a tool that we think is very useful in the context of applying blockchain, and I mean really moving to implementation and away from proof of concept and pilot projects where a lot of the experimentation is right now, is the regulatory sandbox approach. So in an area where no one has foreseen prohibiting the blockchain, but there is a process that may be on the rules level, not on the regulation level, can you experiment the innovator with the regulator in making the implementation, the testing of the tool? So this is something, again, probably more than having an overall regulation on blockchain, which, as I say, we have some doubts, at least at the moment, whether it would address some of the very specific sectoral problems you have in really getting to pragmatic implementation, that a regulatory sandbox or innovation hubs tool might be very useful in this sense. And looking forward into the next multilateral financial facility, we're also looking to whether there should be a European public blockchain, again, to provide e-government services, cross-border services, again, not as a sole solution, something interoperable with everything else that is out there, but providing a sustainable and EU law compliant tool for the public services to use. But this is something that we're in the exploration stages on, and we're very much interested in hearing from all of you. One last message, because I forgot that, because it's also an important message of collaboration. We're participating actively at the international level in the International Standardization Organization, Technical Committee 307, sorry for the lingo, but this is where the international standards for blockchain are being set, and my unit is the liaison. So very much on upcoming issues like, for instance, smart contracts, which might be an area for European regulation if we do want to make them legally binding and not just code that is giving instructions. If you do want them to be enforceable, this is something that both will be in the international standards, but obviously the standards are voluntary unless implemented in legislation. But then we can also look to the future with the parliamentarians who are working on a resolution and others, whether this might not be an area where actually legislation could be enabling, where we could make it possible to have more innovation and more implementation in Europe. So we're very much interested in hearing from all of you in the process of the Blockchain Observatory and Forum, in the standardization context, as well as politically from the European Parliament and the member states.